Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 44 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Louis Skupien. That's me, and our special guest for today, Killian Sexton, who's going to be answering our questions today. Killian, please say hi, introduce yourself, and give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do before I shoot some questions. Let's go.
All good. Hey, Louis, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. My name is Killian Sexton, three-time open heart surgery survivor. I guess we'll get talking to that in a while. World traveler, adrenaline junkie, all-around professional idiot, to be honest. But I'm just a big kid with a camera, who likes to make cool videos on the internet for some really cool people.
Bam, there you go. And so having a look at the stuff that you've done, honestly, you look like such a fun guy. You're so full of energy, and you've had all these three open heart surgeries. You've come out on top. You're doing amazing things now. Really impressive, and you get bonus cookie points with me because you're Irish born as well. I love the Irish. I love the High Kings music. You don't know them, unfortunately, but go strong for the island. And I'm going there in February as well. Can't wait for that. But hey, I've got four really good questions lined up for today's podcast, Killian. So if you're ready to go, should we jump on to question number one?
Let's do it, brother.
Right, fire it up. Okay, so for the first question, tell me about your backstory. So how did you get into photography and videography, and what was the inspiration behind it when you started out?
Yeah, man, good question. So basically, ever since I can remember around the house, my dad actually was a photographer and a teacher. So growing up, there was always cameras, video cameras around the house. And I just make dumb little family movies and stuff. But there is one particular moment that sort of stands out when I was maybe 8 or 9. I'm sure you're familiar with the UK TV show You've Been Framed.
Yes, very familiar. And I used to absolutely love it when I was a bit younger. The guy, the voice, all of it, an absolute classic. Yeah, go on then.
So that was kind of my first, claim to fame of having a viral video. I remember, it's kind of silly to say that we used to try and get on the show faking videos, falling over or jumping over a fence and falling into the river in the countryside and stupid stuff like that. But there was one that we did. I just set the camera recording in our living room. We were building up, the old VHS tapes, building up a huge big triangle. People probably don't even remember, don't know what a VHS nowadays.
All saw that video.
Gen Z.
I saw that. Yeah, brilliant.
So I was basically me and my brother were building up a huge big triangle, and we got to the very last VHS tape, and I just went to put it on the top and pressed down too hard, and the whole thing just came crumbling down. And my reaction was just obviously a kid. I started crying. I was so annoyed with myself, and I stormed out of the camera. And then we just thought, this is a really natural clip. We'll send it in. And sure enough, it got used. It was on the show. And we were it's just crazy watching yourself at such a young age being on national TV. You're like, damn, that's a good feeling.
Damn, there you go. Yeah, I remember that guy. It's hilarious. He's like, yeah, if you submit a video and get featured on our program, you could be owed up to 250 quid. Cheerio. It's just absolute classic.
I remember, I think it took 6 or 7 years to get that 250 quid.
Did it really? No way.
Yeah.
God,
we got it. And then also growing up, I'm sure obviously you're just across the pond in England. Over in Ireland, there's a lot of traditional Irish sports like Gaelic football. Yeah. Obviously rugby's worldwide, but it's very popular in Ireland. And hurling, they play this crazy sport with a wooden stick. If you guys don't know what it is, check it out. It's mad. Yeah. So I was never really that guy. I was always a little bit different in school. I was sort of more into my skateboarding and parkour, which I know you've had Toby and Dom on.
Yes,
and, yeah, I know these guys, not personally, but I really admire what they do, and I still follow them to this day. I watch all their YouTube channels and stuff. They're doing really good things. But yeah, I was always that kid around the town with my friends, just skateboarding, and I'd bring my video camera, my dad's camera at the time, into the town, and I was sort of, honing my craft, subconsciously, just making videos and trying to get cool little angles and stuff. And it just kind of progressed over, and then I went to college. And then in 2008, I actually, believe it or not, won a worldwide parkour video competition. It was sponsored by Nokia, or Nokia, as you say it in the UK, the phone brand.
Yes, yeah.
So the whole premise was to make a parkour based video and have this phone, in the video. My brother and I, we set her up on my country lane, and the whole premise was he was doing some studying on his bed, and his phone was sitting beside him, and I would sneak in and steal the phone off him and run away. and then we just started into this whole chase scene. So we were chasing each other around over the fences in my neighbors' gardens, up on the roof, doing all this crazy jumps and stuff. And then the catch at the end was where I was trying to climb up on the roof, and my brother pulled my trousers down, and obviously the phone was in my pocket, and that was like the little comedy bit to the end, the twist at the end. And then it was up for vote, so we were just spamming it to all our friends on probably MSN Messenger, as it was back in the day. It's like, come vote for us, vote for us. And then sure enough, we won the competition, and we won like an all expenses paid trip to the birthplace of parkour in France.
Wow, no way. That's so cool. I mean, I did a little bit of research on you and stuff, but I never knew any of that. That's awesome. And I love how it's all started with such kind of humble, fun beginnings. And you've always followed this true passion you've clearly always had for photography and videography and stuff. And I never knew you were into parkour, but yeah, I've had a few really cool guests on around parkour and stuff over the last couple of months. They're all such humble, cool people. And so obviously, like you said, you've been in photography and videography since very early on, always been your passion. And now you get to do this stuff for some huge names as well. So, you know, you've turned your passion into something that you're doing full time, I guess, as well. So for my second question, this is what I want to ask about now is, so obviously now you're editing and creating content for massive brands and people like Gary Vee, Paddy The Baddy, and many others. What's that like working with them, and how do you land the jobs and get noticed and hired by these people?
Sure. So one thing I want to touch on from the last question is it kind of follows into this question is, like, as I said, my dad was a wedding photographer, and I'd go to all the weddings with him, and I'd be his like little assistant, right-hand man.
Yeah.
And over the years, that's kind of taught me like business and how to, you know, interact with clients and get our personality and bring our energy out, as you talked about earlier. And that's really transferred over to now, building up your confidence and being able to ask and go out and find these kind of jobs. So like I kind of started with Gary Vee is like, it's only really been in the last 2 years which I've really built up my career to this level, which is kind of nuts to think about, because when I was traveling, I've always did like construction jobs or working in bars, like serving or bartending, but obviously having like sort of little side jobs here and there, like making small little movies, but not to this sort of level. One piece of advice I would give, as I always do, is I kind of coined the term digital door knocking. So basically going into Instagram DMs and trying to being like putting yourself out there and trying to provide value, knocking on as many doors as you talk about. And my dad's always sort of instilled in me the quote, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. I've actually got it tattooed on my arm here.
I love that.
His handwriting, so it means a lot to me. Yeah, just going out there, putting yourself out there and reaching out to like, well, I kind of reverse engineered to think who would be a cool brand or who would I actually want to work for first. And then I was like, so how do I get, I'm at A, how do I get to B? And then obviously with social media nowadays, it's just a click away of getting their attention now. But yeah, I'm just constantly sending DMs and stuff, and yeah.
Fair play, man. Damn. I mean that's such a funny way of doing it. And that is exactly what I've done with this podcast as well. I mean, I just started off from literally just flinging out a few hundred messages and getting 6 or 7 back, and then you use the leverage of those people to kind of help you get the next guest on and then the next one after that and stuff. And I love how you said you'd like, oh yeah, I started with Gary Vee, and I'm thinking, wait, what? You just started with like this enormous influence. Like, dude, that's crazy. But it's funny how what you said there, that actually I've been a Gary Vee consumer for quite a few years now, and that really sounds a hell of a lot like the D-Rock story, actually, with how he kind of started to provide the bits of content and free value. And now look at him, he's doing all the work for Gary and stuff. But yeah, it makes me wonder then, so how did you actually get in touch with Gary, and how did you get this content in front of his nose then?
Sweet. So as I said, like reverse engineer, how do I get to this big boss at the top? Obviously, like I had started the first rung of the ladder and sort of build my way up. So Dustin is a videographer on the team, and I've always been following his content and his story of how he got on the team. And at the time, this is early 2020, there was this thing, I'm not sure if you remember, called the pandemic.
Yeah, just a slight memory somewhere in the back.
Yeah. So everyone was locked up at home and you couldn't do in-person meetings. Gary couldn't, and he started this web show, like virtual show called Tea with Gary Vee.
Seen it.
And I used to wake up and watch it every morning. And they had this little intro jingle at the start. Some guy made. I'm not really sure who it was, but shouts out to him. And I seen it and I was like, it's good, but I'll be completely honest, I could probably make this better. And then I started, and I know Gary's a big hip hop head like myself. And I was like, what's a good way of getting his attention? I'll write a rap song. I was like, I'm not a rapper, but I've always been into sort of listening to rap music and writing poems. And when I was younger, and then I was like, I took to my bedroom, kind of embarrassed, hiding away from my brothers. Like, I don't want them seeing me writing a rap. And my younger brother Niall, he's a recording artist as well, so he had like the microphones and stuff in our house here in Toronto. So I wrote a rap, and then really tried to like using the lyrics what I think Gary would listen to or what he'd really appreciate. Wrote the rap, and then I got my brother to sing the hook. Like, he's an amazing singer. You guys should check him out as well. And then I went on to Gary's YouTube channel and like picked like a little piece of content, a video, and then ripped it off his YouTube channel and brought it into my editing software and pieced together like a little intro jingle and pitched it to Dustin. And then another thing I want to go back to, another little technique in the DMs is, as you said, reaching out to so many people. One thing is not to be spammy. You don't want to be just copy and pasting. You have to, there's a certain way to do it, because I've learned from my mistakes. I've sent so many messages and you read them back and you're like, why the hell did I send that? That's dumb.
Yeah.
So I reached out to Dustin. I was always watering the plants is another little concept I sort of thought of, is every so often, every month or so, just checking in on them and sort of, watering the plants, just saying, how are you? Just to let them know I'm here if you need me for anything. So the time was right whenever we built enough rapport with Dustin that I was like, I'll strike now. I was like, I'll send him over the video. Nothing might come off it, but I sent it to him, like a week went past, and then he got back to the team. He was like, holy crap, this is amazing. We're going to use this. So they end up to use the jingle as the intro to Gary Vee. And then one of the early shows that was played, Gary, I'll never forget at the start, he's like, because Dustin was doing all the behind the scenes production work. And he was like, Dustin, was that a new intro? Can you play that again? I was like, I got him. So, and then he played it again. He was like, yeah. Anyway, fast forward another week, we actually got invited onto the show after making the jingle. So myself and my brother got invited onto the virtual show. We were just chatting for a good 15-20 minutes about Niall's music, my videography, and how we can sort of take it to the next level. And then towards the end of the conversation, I was like, it's went so well. Gary did say, he stopped the show in the middle and was like, you guys, I just want to party with you guys. You guys seem fun. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then at the end, I was like, I'll just throw out a Hail Mary. And I asked him, I was like, next time we're in New York, is there any chance we could grab like a 10-minute coffee? I'll pick your brain. He was like, get to New York, kid. You've got 10 minutes. I'm like, okay. And then the call ended, and me and Niall were just freaking out. We're like, what? We did this.
Oh my God.
Crazy.
That is absolutely ridiculous. You must have been so excited. And that's just epic. I've got to ask them, did you come up with a name for this song then? And who sung it then?
That's what I'm saying. I rapped the song, which I'm not.
No way.
I rapped it. So if you go back and play it, that's my voice.
That's absolutely ridiculous. Did you have a name for it then or something? Where can I find it?
So if you just type in Tea with Gary Vee, it's been used for the last year and a half or something. So all the most recent episodes, the very, very intro song, it lasts 15-20 seconds. That's me and my brother.
That's absolutely incredible. First thing I'm doing when I get off this podcast is I'm going straight there, and I have to listen to this. I've got to hear it now because it's going to provide so much more meaning just to know it's you.
Yeah, so the little hook at the end is it's a very catchy part of the song, not the rap part my brother sung. If I sing it very terribly now, you'll probably maybe rejog your brain. It was like, tea with Gary Vee, preaching positivity. That was it. Yes! And then it was like, what? There you go.
That's it. Oh my God. I have to hear the proper edited version after this though. But I'll tell you what, I was thinking about just what you were saying there as well. And I totally feel exactly what you mean about the whole sort of building rapport thing. And it's hard to know how much to do because I obviously have the same thing with my podcast. When you're talking to really big people, their assistants and stuff, the nightmare is when you send something and then you're left unseen, and it's it's a question message or something you're asking, how you doing, or this sort of thing, or when can we maybe do this or something, and then you get left unseen and you're like, Oh no. What do I do now? Do I wait for a month and follow up? Or have they just forgotten me? Or have they just forgotten to do this thing and they need reminding again? Or are they just that sick of me that they just don't want to hear from me? And they're saying,
Yeah, that's just
take the
one thing.
point, son.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to gauge it, and obviously learn to take it on the chin. It's going to happen. You're not going to get every single one. So that was
Yeah,
just lucky that it did happen, and it was for such a prestigious, entrepreneur. But
crazy.
to get a little bit further along the story, that was like kind of making my first impression, getting my foot in the door per se. And
Mm,
then how the actual job came around was, I think it was like summer 2021. I was actually preparing for my third open heart surgery, which we'll talk about later.
sure.
And we I seen a post on his Instagram, or the Team Gary Vee Instagram, like looking for global creators, because obviously we were in the pandemic and you couldn't work from the office. This was the first time they ever were hiring people all over the world.
Mhm.
So I was like, this is my chance now. And then I applied and used the attached, the Tea with Gary Vee intro.
Yeah.
And then we actually did another intro. Sorry, I almost forgot about that. The segment where Gary was like, D-Rock, or I think it was D-Rock, was like naming, say, like the New York Jets, and then he would say overrated or underrated.
Yes.
Do you
Yeah. Great
know,
series.
we actually did the jingle for that as well.
No way. Oh man, you've
Yeah.
had so much. So you've done so much iconic stuff because this is all bringing it all back to me now. I'm thinking, oh my god, yeah, that you did that. What?
It actually started with the instrumental, which is a quirky little sort of song. And
Mm.
then I just knew as soon as I heard that song, I was like, my brother's voice over the top of that would crush. And then I got the first one. I was very confident. I was like, we're getting on this one. We've got this in the bag. And sure enough, same thing. We took like 30 minutes and recorded it, sent it on to Dustin. He was like, "What? You guys are here again? You did it again?" And then it got used again. That was a little bit before the global creator position was,
Mm.
advertised. I just forgot about that. I just thought I had to touch on that. But
Fair play.
I applied for it, and then, as I said, used the underrated, overrated jingle and the Tea with Gary Vee jingle as on my resume as like I've done this for you already. What else could I do? And I applied for it, and went through 4 or 5 pretty rigorous, interviews, like just like we're doing right now.
Mm.
But the main was I got all the way to the end, and then they wanted you to. They made up like an imaginary brand. So my whole test was to design, market, and make content for this fake bicycle company.
Okay.
So I had to name the company. I had to come up with like cool little quirky reels, and I set up social media pages, and like we put the logo on their Twitter and Instagram just to make it feel like it actually was real. And the name, if I do say it so myself, was pretty genius. I called the company Velo, so Veelo. It's actually the French word for bicycle, and obviously it's got Gary Vee's name in the word, Velo.
That's brilliant. I really like that. That's
So
so good.
I designed the logo up. I recorded another jingle for this Velo fake company, and I made a load of Instagram reels, TikToks, and the one that really clinched it, they told me afterwards when I got the job, was myself and my friend Paul. He came down with all his like a podcast equipment, and we staged like a fake podcast. So we literally set up the lights and the cameras and everything, and we just talked about Gary Vee and bicycles just for like a little 2-minute segment, just something different. I thought someone else wouldn't think of, just to stand out. So I did that, and sure enough, it kind of landed me the job. I think there was like a couple of thousand people applied, and only 2 people got it. And you're looking at one.
Damn, there he is. There's one of them. And oh no, that's so cool. I love that name, man. You that is exceptional. I mean, that's instant brownie points if you can get his little name in there as well. So that's just too good. You must have thought, oh my god, I've stumbled onto something really good here when you saw that or thought of that. But I'll tell you what, this leads so well onto the third question, actually, all of this, because you got chucked in at the deep end. You've been doing the photography and the videography most of your life, and suddenly you're working for Gary Vee, and then later on you're working for all these other huge influencers and stuff and brands and companies. So this now leads to the next question perfectly, like I said. So what is it that you feel creates the most engaging content and videos, and what would you say are some of the most important aspects of a piece of content for it to be really good? No one better to ask than you.
Appreciate that. Well, the first thing is you can't buy personality, or you can't fake energy. And just the people that I work for now, they just have that X factor, as they talk about. That's why they are who they are. Like Gary's that colorful guy with his language and his opinions. You know, Andrew Schulz is hilarious, and Paddy The Baddy's like a UFC superstar, and he's almost like a stand-up comedian himself. So that's what I'm saying. All these guys have got that thing.
Mm.
So that makes my job easier, a little bit easier. But I think like the most sort of engaging content sort of it evokes emotion, whether it's, you know, like laughter, nostalgia, or thought. I want the people to finish the video and sort of leave with some, like they feel some sort of way. Like I really enjoy like the comedic sort of editing. I feel like my comedic timing and editing sort of is pretty damn good. And another sort of very important point is like the use of like sound effects on subtitles and like little animations and emojis popping up. But like there is a happy medium. Like you don't want to overdo it. That people are like, "Boo!" It's like too many things, you know, blah 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 in your face. Say like an emoji's at the top of the video and the subtitles are at the bottom. Your eyes can't see both, so you have to keep them all. You have to think about that. Your eyes are focusing on one thing, so they all have to. That plays a part as well. And then, yeah, like the subtitles and the sound effects, kind of like, or sound design as it's called in the world, is it really like it heightens the word. Say Gary Vee was talking about positivity or something, and he would say, and bang, in walks blah blah blah. On the word, on the subtitle bang, you put on like a cartoon crash emoji or something over the top to really bring that word to life. People really like, subconsciously like hear that, but they don't really think about it. It's just like a little tricks of the trade. Trying to think what else. Like I'd say like trimming the fat, or in the industry is known as a kill your darlings. You know, like just tighten everything up. There might be like Andrew Schulz might have like a little part of this podcast where he's not rambling, that's the wrong word, but like he's probably saying the same things over and over again. You can chop out bits, and like you might be or just trimming that out and having it as concise as possible, because in this day and age, like retention is so important, and people are so quick to click off a video nowadays. So you have to keep them in it for that 15, 20, 30 seconds or whatever it is. Yeah, I think like that's really the main bits of keeping the content, you know, engaging and sort of fun. But I think what people don't realize is, you know, the amount of time spent on these like 30-second to 1 minute videos. When you incorporate all the things I just talked about, some videos, like it takes like 4 to 8 hours per like clip, which is like, I really think people don't understand that. I'd always challenge people to come and sit down in front of this laptop, open up an editing software, and even try and find the splice tool in the editing software. It's a lot of work. You got to know what you're doing.
No, I can tell. And wow, 3 or 4 hours. That's a lot of time for a little piece of content. I tell you what, if you're someone who's not at the top and you're just coming up and stuff, and you're just starting to pick up your following, and then you spend that kind of time on a piece of content and it just completely flops. That must be the most gutting feeling. But I'm going to tell you a little story now, actually. So this is how I found you and your page. So flicking through Instagram, going through the news feed, came across Gary Vee's video. It was hilarious. It was that one of the llama. I can't remember the name of that llama, but it was the llama. It was at the table. Hilarious. Marley, that's the one. And yeah, it was just such a funny video, and all the editing was really good. The sound effects were great, and just the small bits, the small details, it all just made it so much more funny than just the clip itself, which was already funny. So it was just brilliant. And then I'm flicking through the comments, and I think I can't remember who it was exactly, but someone said something like, props to the editor of this clip, exceptional job. And I saw your comment replied to it. I saw your page, and I thought, this guy got to be on the podcast. This is just so good, and he's so talented at this. So no, that's absolutely exceptional. And just something that I'm thinking about now, just off of what you answered there to the question. So like you said, a piece of content can take, like a proper piece of content can take 3 to 4 hours or even longer. And so my question is, for someone, let's say, who would be just up and coming now, getting into entrepreneurship and starting to really kind of crush it on social media, at what stage do you think they should start looking to outsource the content creation, the content editing and stuff? Because people, you know, time's a precious thing. And for people who are running businesses and trying to run multiple social media accounts, and 3 or 4 hours of editing, that can really, really be tough for them and stuff. So at what stage do you think they should start looking to outsource it?
Well, I'd say like ideally ASAP. Like say if they have like the budget there, then it's something like they don't have to worry about. And obviously themselves, they're an entrepreneur. They're not a video editor. They're not a creative like me. So why not? It only makes sense to hire someone who's professional at that job to do that. So you can have so much more time to actually run a business or have all these meetings and stuff and not have to worry about it in the back. They just put full trust in me. Like the team, Gary Vee is like something I've never worked with before. Like the team's incredible. Behind the scenes, like even through like the file management systems and like how they do how the whole workflow runs is like it's a well-oiled machine. It's crazy. It's something I've never seen before. But yeah, that's the short answer is just as soon as possible. And if the funds are there, then and you can afford to hire somebody to do the job and do it exceptionally well, then why not?
Yeah, totally agreed. And I think as well, it's like most of the things in the world at the moment, from everything from food delivery to just packages being delivered from Amazon and stuff, everything's getting a bit too easy and quality's kind of going downhill slightly. So you take something like Fiverr and you've got all of these options that look so nice, they're so pretty, and they look cheap and everything. And honestly, it's so much better for someone who wants to have a sustainable brand with consistent quality and a good trust bond relationship. And especially people who are, no disrespect to anyone abroad, but people who are kind of dealing through an app with all these things, they don't have the personal communication, kind of personal touch with the person. So you, for example, you perfectly understand Gary, you perfectly understand Paddy, and all these people that you work with, you know their personality, you know what their audience is looking for, and you can't really get that on one of these easier, maybe slightly cheaper apps and stuff. So it's definitely a very viable solution to look for someone such as yourself, for someone just up and coming, just to get on board with and create that relationship with, and start to build that trust. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't have said it better myself, man. You
Damn
crushed
right.
it.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad that I managed to crush that. Yeah, you always hope you get these things right, but anyway, so for my fourth question now on a slightly different subject, I understand, obviously, like you've said, that you're an open heart, 3 times open heart surgery survivor, which is incredible, and now you're doing all this incredible stuff with Gary and all these amazing people. So, what I want to ask for my last question is, if you have a minute, to speak to everyone around the world going through hard times with their health and feeling really down and out of life, what would you tell them to help them keep going and feel hopeful? I feel like with what you went through and where you are now, what you're doing, you'd be a great person to answer this. And with the energy you have and the positive outlook you have, please give us some advice. And if you want to, you can feel free to tell us the story of the open heart surgery 3 times surviving thing too.
Sweet, of course. This conversation just took a little switch, but no, I totally open to talk about it. It's something that I've went through that's been pretty traumatic, and if I can talk and sort of share my message, and if it helps at least one person going through what I'm going through, then I've done my job, you know. But yeah, I was born. I was kind of dealt a shitty hand, if I'm honest, at life at the start. I was born with a really, really rare heart condition called truncus arteriosus. It's kind of like the dumb it down, and the most easiest way to understand is like you have the left ventricle and the right ventricle. One's pumping oxygen, one's pumping blood. I was born with just one, and they were mixing together. Like everything was mixing together, and was really, really dangerous. Right. So I had to get rushed down into the emergency room at like 4 weeks old, like no bigger than like a bag of sugar. And I'll never forget, like, well, my mom telling me, like, they were talking to the doctors before the surgery. They have to go through, fill out all these forms, and I'll just, let's call a spade a spade. Like the worst case scenario happens, they were asking like, what's the success rate previously of someone with this condition? And the doctors like took a minute and they were like, 0. Like everyone else before me, unfortunately, didn't make it through. And I can only imagine from my parents' perspective, like that must have been a punch to the gut. They're like, what? Like nobody survived before me. And there was a kid in the ward with the same name, actually, Killian. That's why I'll never forget that. And his family and Killian, the baby, like me, were going through the same operation. And I made it through, and unfortunately, he didn't. And I think my mom and dad still talk to their parents to this day. That's something that'll always stay with me, But like the first 2 operations were when I was very young, 4 weeks, and then the second one when I was 5 years old. They had to go in and fix the problem because obviously I'm growing as a child, whereas this artificial bit stays the same size. And the first one was 9 hours open heart surgery, and this one was a little bit shorter, 7 hours. But 7 hours is still a long, long time when you're under the knife, But it's I can't really remember because I was so young. But I always have been told stories from my parents, like after the second surgery when I was 5, I think like a week later, I was up and down the roller, or up and down the hospital corridor on roller skates, jumping down the stairs. That's just my mentality. It's like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to do this. And then fast forward to the third one, it's obviously something I'll never ever forget. And I was an adult whenever it happened. So like, obviously you remember these things. And there was one particular part after the surgery. It was a success, but afterwards, the electronics of the heart kind of like malfunctioned, and they weren't working as good as it was. And they fitted me with a Holter monitor for 2 weeks after I was discharged out of the hospital, just to track and see like on a day-to-day basis, like throughout the 24 hours, how your heart's doing. And as I talked about earlier, the Irish sport, Gaelic football, it's like a huge, big Irish sport, probably the biggest in Ireland. There was the final, and me and my parents, my friends and all, we all went to the pub to watch it. And like, I was only 1 week fresh out of heart surgery, so obviously wasn't drinking. Well, to tell the truth, I was sipping on a Magners Irish beer, Irish cider as it was, but not going crazy by any means, just sipping. And it came towards halftime of the game, and then I just started like feeling really weird. I'm like, you know, that I don't know if you've ever fainted before. Like you feel this overcoming darkness, and you're feeling dizzy, and you're like, whoa. I just thought it was maybe because it was a lot of people in the bar. I thought it was just dizziness. And then I just felt the lights like just go out. I collapsed, boom, fell down. And I was falling down. I was going to hit my head off the side of the next table, and my mum caught me. And I collapsed, I passed out, and they took the monitor and brought it into the computer and did the research. It turns out like I died in my mum's arms for 6 seconds. And then for some reason, God willing or whatever, I woke up in the room, and just like a movie, there was people surrounding me, like it was echoey, just exactly like you'd picture in a movie.
Yeah.
I was like, where am I? Is this a dream? Is this a dream? And then they called the ambulance. 45 minutes later, no ambulance came, so the owner of the bar rushed me into his car and sped me off to the hospital. And then I was readmitted into the intensive care unit, where I spent like another like month or something like that. It was bad, man. It was bad.
Jeez. Wow. That is an incredible story. But doesn't that just say something about you? I mean, look at you. You're buzzing. You're so full of energy. You were on roller skates through the corridor 7 hours, 7 hours after the surgery, right?
No, sorry, no, definitely not. 1 week after. 1 week.
Okay.
But it's still pretty good.
Wouldn't surprise me though.
Yeah,
it must be that green blood in you, man. But no, that's absolutely amazing. It's just truly such an impressive story, and it's so good to see how well you've done now. And just out of interest, then, how old are you now?
I'm 34 now.
34. Dude, Gary would say it, I'd say it. You've got a whole life ahead of you, and you've done so much now. You're doing so many incredible things, and you've got through all of that. It's just so good to see. I'm so happy for you, honestly, genuinely from the bottom of my heart. So happy to see how well you're doing and how buzzing you are. And it makes me want to ask then. So you've been through a lot. You're doing a lot. What's coming next? What you got planned?
Yeah, there was a couple other things I kind of want to touch on before I get to that.
Oh yeah,
sure. It just re-jogged my memory there. Like whenever, just as I said, for advice for people going forward, like whenever I was lying in that like ICU room, like I physically couldn't leave bed because my sternum was literally just ripped right open, and like there was tubes in my nose. I was finding it hard to breathe, and anytime like a cough or a sneeze, you felt it coming on. You had to brace. Like I've never felt pain like it in my life. But it was just like times like that. You got to remember, like I had my family like support behind me, and like they're amazing. Like me and my family are so close. Like having a good support system behind you, sort of like coaching you along. Like, you know, you're going to get through this. You're going to be fine. And then other like exterior things I looked to was like Gary Vee. As I said, I've been a fan for as long as I can remember, about 10 years. Watching his videos, and then Russ is like a rapper. He brought out a book called "It's All in Your Head." I read that through it whenever it was, you know, the healing process. Reading it, and it really sort of changed a couple of like mind shifting, like, you know, things. And then obviously watching other podcasts for positivity, just trying to block out any negativity that was coming my way. And advice I would give to people is just like never give up and just keep going. Just think it's always going to get better, and like don't like let your hometown trap you in as well. That's another thing. Get out there and see the world and go traveling and learn new experiences, and don't be afraid to mess up, because it always works out in the end. Like, I have another tattoo here, like I'll figure it out, because I always figure things out. It always happens. And then just keep saying to yourself, you're here for a reason. It'll all work out. It'll be worth it in the end. That's kind of how I wanted to end that bit. So what was your other question? I just went on a rant there.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll get to that in just a second. There is actually one more thing I just want to say, just in response to what you just said now, and then I'll ask that straight after it. But
Sure.
I just want to say that from the last couple of people I've had on the podcast as well, including you as well on this, when I was looking at you and the stuff that you've done, and I looked at your backstory with the heart surgery thing, and from what it sounded like, you'd received diagnosis and you'd been told by the doctors that you weren't going to skydive, you weren't going to be able to do this, you weren't going to be able to do this again, and they said all these things, and you've gone and done all of them. And it's the same with Kegan Gill, who I had on before, who had a horrific accident in a plane. And if you haven't seen the podcast or heard it before, guys, go and check it out. Incredible story. And he was told he was never going to do pretty much anything again. He recovered through all of it. And just want to say that although I haven't been through anything like this, so I can't really speak from personal experience, but from what I've heard from people such as Killian here and Kegan before, and Mark Keller on the podcast as well, is if you receive a diagnosis, or if some expert is telling you that you're not going to do something like this again, they're an expert, and that their impression and their advice matters, but no one truly knows what you're capable of. And you could very well, if you really put your mind to it and really focus on it and really go for it, no one truly knows the potential of what we can actually do with our brains. And you can recover, and you can make a change, and you can come out on top, never out of the fight. And Killian's just another example of that. Ask people about it. Even if you receive bad news, it doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. It's all up to us, really, isn't it?
It's all up here. That's it. It's all mental.
Hell yeah. And talking about the recovery story, then back to that question I just asked a moment ago. So you're buzzing, you're full of energy, you're thriving now, you're doing great. Just tell me then, what's coming next for you? What's on the agenda? What have you got planned? How's it looking?
Yeah, so just going to continue like with these clients, and I'm obviously, as I said, like doing that digital door knocking, looking for other people to work with. I have a couple of clients coming up, which I can't really talk about right now. We're at the filling out forms procedure, but you could say that they're a pretty big YouTuber. That's all I can really say for now.
Okay, how big are we talking? Ballpark.
This guy, like the top.
Okay, wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very glad that I'm in the firing line and following you, so I can see any updates and stuff. But I really do hope that it all follows through for you. And guys, make sure to follow Killian. But hey, look, that is our 4 questions and a bit done for today. And before we wrap this up, it is time for what I like to call, and everyone knows the rules, as the shameless plug. Killian, feel free to take a minute and promote anything that you're working on, you want people to take a look at, or just something that you believe in. Could be your social media, could be a project, anything.
Yeah, thanks again for the interview, Louis. It was really cool.
No
problem. This is my first real sort of podcast, and to be honest, I was quite nervous at the start. As I say, I'm a very confident guy, but when it comes to like almost like an interview, I kind of like crimp up. But this is kind of broken out of the shell, so I feel good now. So thank you for that first. And yeah, you can just follow me on my social media, just at Mr. Killian Sexton, Instagram, and on YouTube. As I said, this 3rd surgery I've came through, I've actually been documenting the whole process from start to finish. My mum's, we have like gigabytes and gigabytes of footage on the iPhone and my camera. We've recorded the doctor's conversations before the operation. Obviously, they didn't film the actual surgery, which, to be completely honest, I actually asked the surgeon, I was like, could I mount a GoPro to the roof while you're doing the surgery? But obviously he said no. But I got all the afterwards, like the recovery, and like pretty much learning how to walk again, like, and learn how to like fully extend your lungs and learn how to breathe again. Like it's going to be a good video. That's going to be on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, just Killian Sexton on YouTube. I'm on TikTok, all that fun stuff as well. So just type my name into Google, and you'll find me.
Brilliant. Now that's great to hear, and I'm so happy to have been your first proper podcast. I think that people like you do definitely deserve more credit, because the people that do the hard work and the behind the scenes stuff and create the amazing things that inspire us and excite us and give us knowledge today, people like this guy that do all the hard work there, and these are the people with the real talent. And yeah, look, Killian, like I said, so glad to have had you on for your first podcast. I'm pretty pumped about that, and we can hope that there'll be many more for you in the future, and hopefully get to have you on again on this one as well for a talk for more or something in the future. But hey, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk 4 podcast, Killian. It has been my absolute pleasure to have you on.
Sláinte, as we say in Ireland. Thank you.
Okay, teach me that. How do you say it again?
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
Pretty much saying thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Nailed it. Right. So, sláinte, guys, for listening. I hope I got it right. This has been episode 44. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen for our future ones, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love, leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.